Okay, well, it'll be as not exactly promised, but as hoped for, an abbreviated sermon. In my kind of analytical sort of mind, I was trying to look for something that sort of brought together the series that we've been in for the last few weeks, plus the fact that we're ending Christmas time, and then today is sort of a baby dedication service. And thankfully, a couple thousand years ago, someone thought of me ahead of time and my particular needs on this morning. And so Psalm 8, I just want to spend a few minutes looking at. But let's do this. Maybe if you could all stand. And let's read together Psalm 8 just to make sure that these words are in our mind. O Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth, who have displayed your splendor above the heavens. From the mouth of infants and nursing babes, you have established strength because of your adversaries, to make the enemy and the revengeful cease. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained. What is man that you take thought of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him? Yet you have made him a little lower than God, and you crowned him with glory and majesty. You make him rule over the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, and also the beasts of the field, the birds of the heavens, and the fish of the sea, whatever passes through the paths of the seas. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Thank you. We can have a seat. If you've been here for the last few weeks and recall any of the sermons in this series, I hope your mind made the connection. I mean, we've been talking about the creation story and the beauty of God's workmanship, but also we've been talking about that humans are created in the image of God to creatively contribute to what God started. Our role is significant. We reflect God. And what God is going to do, most often He's going to do through the humans that He has created. So you see that starting in verse 5. The significant moment in this psalm is between verse 4 and verse 5. You have verse 3 when the psalmist talks about the beauty of creation. Someone, if in fact it was David who wrote this psalm, who spent a lot of time outdoors, spent nights outdoors, maybe awake, watching his sheep, looking at the stars. And so he spent a lot of time just seeing the beauty of nature. He wasn't in four walls much of the time. He certainly wasn't looking at some little tablet, of stone or electronics. So he knew the wonders of creation. And when you look at how great it is, most people feel very, very small. And we probably ought to, recognize our smallness when we think about, this earth that was here before we were born will be here after we die, and it's still going to go on. We ought to feel small. And so, what is man? Considering how small we are in light of the universe, what significance do we have, and why should God care about us? But as a matter of fact, He does, and we are in fact the center of His story. So He says, in spite of whatever it might look like, you've made Him a little lower than God, and you crown Him with glory and majesty. When we started this series, I put up this quote from Dan Rather, an American journalist, and it was after the eclipse that happened in that most of America saw. So he said, "The solar eclipse is a useful reminder of the humility with which we must consider our place in the universe." Okay, and that's kind of what is going on here. We should have a certain amount of humility about our place in the universe. He said it's also a testimony to the wonders of the human intellect that we can track the movement of celestial bodies with such rigor and precision. I see it as a hopeful sign that this eclipse captured the nation's attention. For all that divides us, we are passengers on a global journey together. And so the first part of this quote, I think very much fits with what that psalm says. But if you recall, if you were there that Sunday, I challenged this last sentence. We are not passengers. We are not passengers. We are actors. We are significant actors. And when we think about these babies, it'd be easy to see, literally, right now, the babies are passengers. They're being held, or they're in a stroller, and they can't move by themselves, and they might not seem to contribute much, except for a little bit of noise and some smells and sleepless nights and that kind of thing. They might seem like, well, they're just passengers right now. But and the parents know that they have much more significance than just passengers. These babies are not passengers. They are contributors. They are movers and shakers, world changers. Maybe not the entire world. Maybe one of these 5 we're dedicating today might make a huge wave in Latvia or Europe or the world. But if not, they will have their world that they can shape and change. They can be world changers, and they're not just passengers. They're too important for us to see them as just passengers. They don't get on our plane for a few minutes and we give them coffee and tea and then they get off and we forget about them. Their significance is great. So what God had in mind is He has made humans, even these little babies, a little lower than Himself. He's exalted them to this high position that's just a little bit below Himself. That's not humans trying to claim this exalted position. This is what God has done. This is God's blessing to us to give us this significance. So He makes us to rule over the works of His hands, and He's put all of us under His feet to care for, to nurture sheep and oxen, beasts of the field. Once again this morning, birds and cats were being fed. 2 species of birds and I don't know how many cats, and some lady had given them food, and once again, there was God out there in the form of a human feeding these beasts, taking care of them. Birds of the heavens, fish of the sea, and stray cats, whatever passes through the paths of the seas. Our Lord, O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Now, the Christmas connection I want to make quickly is just to reinforce this point about when God created humans, most of what He was going to do after that, He was going to do through humans. Well, like I said, He created Adam and Eve, and the other billions and billions of people who have existed have all come about in the same way that these 5 babies came about. Okay, through natural processes. What God is going to do, He's going to do through people. When He chooses people, He chooses them for a purpose. And so all through the Bible, He chooses people and He gives them a purpose. Adam and Eve and Noah and Abraham and David and Isaiah and Ezekiel, Jeremiah and the disciples and Paul. And God chooses people for a purpose, because what God is going to do, He's going to do through humans. And if He's going to save the world, He's going to do it through humans. So that's why the Son of God becomes human. God doesn't abandon His plan. He's not just like, oh, those humans are so sorry, they're useless. I'm just going to, there's going to be this God from on high just going to come down and zap people or whatever. No, God doesn't abandon His plan. He said what He's going to do. It's going to be through humans. And so the Son of God becomes human. Becomes like us. And in fact, becomes like a baby. And that's what's amazing about the Christmas story. It's not just, the Son of God takes on a human body in armor and riding a white horse. You get that image in the book of Revelation, but that's not how He first came. He came first as a baby. A helpless baby. Seemingly a passenger. Of course, that's all people saw when they saw Jesus, a passenger. What does He contribute? Who is He? Born to this poor family, questionable birth, what's up with that? Joseph and Mary, I don't know. King Herod's trying to kill him. They got escaped to Egypt. You know, how unimportant is this family? And in this unimportant family, how unimportant is this baby? God is just overturning all the values of the earth. And so you see that in verse 2. From the mouths of infants and nursing babies you have established strength. As these children take on the name of the Lord, Yahweh, and proclaim His name, there's a greater power there than any enemy that rises up against God. Jesus quotes from that in the story of when he's entering Jerusalem and people are praising him, and of course the religious leaders are all in a wad about that. Oh, you've got to shut your disciples up. You know, this is very unseemly. You know, this isn't decorous enough, and, you know, this is too chaotic, and, you know, tell your disciples to shut up. And Jesus quotes from Psalm 8, you know, it's out of children's mouths that the truth is going to be declared. Again, overturning the values of the world, and you see that a number of times in the life of Jesus, the Son of God who was a baby and grew up and had to have his diapers changed and had to have someone put food in his mouth, who had to listen to Joseph and Mary and listen to rules and had little brothers too, and had a village he grew up in. You know, no one in the village of Nazareth was thinking, oh, this is the Son of God, wow, Jesus. You know, 5- and 6-year-old Jesus didn't run around doing miracles. There are stories about that, but they're not historical stories. He just looked like an average Jewish kid in a dumpy little town, but he was the Son of God. And he was born to change the world, literally the entire world, the only one who could change everything, the Son of God become human. But it reminds us of how God works, the significance of the insignificant. So that's just kind of the reminder I want us to have today about, you know, about the children that we are praying for, that they're not just passengers. You know, they're not just something we ought to take care of. And you know, I mean, it's okay for you parents, you know, parents too. There are times when it gets very discouraging and tiring, and you will yell at your kids sometimes. You will lose patience. You'll wonder what in the world you're doing. It's okay. Don't get away the guilt. You know, it's just the life that we have. But at the same time, I want all of us to remember who these children are. They are valuable to God. They are reflectors of God. Not just later when they grow up and now. They are reflections of how God works. Signs of God. And so that's what I want us to remember today. All right.